This is why I think this whole trope of you wake up in the morning, you've got two choices, discipline or excuses. If you leave it till the morning, you've already failed. Because eventually, when your discipline, your motivation runs out, and it will, you'll resort to the easier option because you don't have anything prepped. All right. Hey, folks, welcome back. It's Faz from Fazlifts. Today, I want to speak about the lie of high disciplined people. Now, to begin talking about that, I want to speak about another very common trope. Like you've probably heard of it, that this idea that you shouldn't rely on motivation, you should rely on discipline. It's a very common, popular, low effort soundbite, which I originally heard on Joe Rogan's. And since then, multiple YouTubers and influencers have said something to that effect. Now, I want to tell you that's not very helpful. And in actuality, just speaking about how you've got to choose discipline, not motivation, that's motivation in itself. The message is supposed to be motivating because basically all it's saying to you is stick to your plan. What's the end result of being highly motivated? Stick to your plan. What's the end result of being highly disciplined? Stick to your plan. It's the same thing in this context. So I certainly don't think it's a particularly helpful statement. So I want to speak today a bit about what is helpful because my goal is to help you guys. And I'm not into low quality shit posts. So I'm going to give you a practical solution and a strategy of what I do to stick to things which I'm not naturally pretty good at. So first of all, before we carry on, do hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. Drop a comment for the algorithm, hit like. I am trying to help you guys with something very, very practical here, which you can implement into your lives to make you better at sticking to the habits which support the lifestyle that you want, which support the body that you want. Things that I've done to help myself with areas that I'm not very good at, like sticking to my diet or doing my cardio. So what I want to start off by talking about is this idea that discipline versus motivation, it's not the complete picture. In fact, it's just two shades of the same thing. Joe Rogan talking about you got to be disciplined and not motivated. It's the same thing. First of all, let's start with just this little statement. It's not enough to rely on motivation. Yeah, we know that. Okay. Motivation is the why behind your actions. Motivation can push you through a couple of weeks. And as you push through, say, a diet or a new training cycle or cardio regimen, the fatigue builds up. And what will happen is if you only have motivation, you'll resort back to your previous habits. Now, I also want to talk a bit about why relying on discipline is also bullshit. Yeah. Discipline is what keeps you doing the things that you need to do, right? This still requires willpower. So this idea of this still requires willpower. And again, a very common trope here is some guy posted something about how when you wake up in the morning, you've got two choices, discipline or excuses. Yeah, my point is, if you leave it till the morning, you've already failed. It's just a slow, inevitable walk to failure. So that kind of BS, while well-meaning, it doesn't really help you because it still relies on willpower. My entire point of this whole video is to say you shouldn't be relying on willpower, whether that's in the form of motivation or whether that's in the form of discipline. They're two shades of the same thing, and neither one of them help you in the long term. So what I'm trying to do with this video is give you ideas on how to structure your life so you're able to stick to things which you're trying to do long term, how I did it. So I want to speak a bit about, first of all, practically, how did I conquer my issues around food? So now you guys all know me now as the lean bodybuilding coach, right? Some of my friends who knew me when I was in my 20s still watch my channel, and they'll tell you, like, I was never particularly lean. Like, I was a powerlifter, and I wasn't necessarily a powerlifter trying to be lean either. Now, when I did finally decide to get in shape, that was a struggle because I had no routine built up at all. I had no real idea of what I was doing from a dieting context. So in terms of how I conquered my own issues around food, practically speaking, it wasn't just relying on motivation or discipline. One of the best things I did was I bought myself a chest freezer. Now, with the chest freezer, I was able to buy food in bulk, and I was able to plan my day ahead of time, including my weekends. And I was able to have food ready in the house, which I could eat or I could take to work when I worked a regular job. So this is a practical solution, right? Practically, what I did was, rather than relying on discipline or motivation, what I did was I ensured that having food which I had cooked, which was good for me and supported my goals, was easier to eat than ordering Uber Eats or like DoorDash for you guys in America. I made it the simple choice. Do you get what I'm saying? So if I'm hungry at, say, 6 p.m., the easier choice is for me to just go to the fridge and grab something I've already prepped. I don't have to rely on willpower or discipline. It's literally the easy choice. Why do people go off their diet and get a takeaway delivery? It's because in the moment, that makes them feel better. In the moment, it's easier. They need food straight away, which looks good and tastes good. Now, I have food prepped both in the fridge and in the freezer, which looks good, tastes good. It's easier for me. It's eating my own food, my own healthy food is actually the lazy option. That's the way to get it done. Do you guys see what I'm saying? If you struggle in an area, if you struggle in an area, like I struggle with diet, self-admittedly, you're always going to resort back to struggling in that area. And why is that? Because when your fatigue and your willpower starts to wane, you're going to resort back to your natural habits. You're going to resort to the easy option. Nobody can live that high discipline, high motivation lifestyle forever. So all these influencers trying to tell you, yes, man, you've got to be disciplined. It's all bullshit. You've got to understand. Joe Rogan telling you that is BS. He's probably got people on hand to prep his meals. He doesn't need discipline. He just goes to the fridge and gets the best option. These less well-known influencers who are telling you, like, you got to rely on discipline, it's either discipline or excuses. They're not helping you. You guys got to understand that. It's just another form of motivation. What's actually going to move the needle in the long term is making good food the easier choice. Let me just round that out and say what I also do is I plan out, like I loosely plan out my day of eating the night before. Now, that might not work for some people, but it's coming from my background where if left to my own devices, I'll just eat whatever. I'll eat like a child. Fully admit that. I will loosely plan out my day the night before. On my phone, it's not a lot of work. It's most of the time, it's just copying across meals. I have a meal plan for 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and a snack for 9 o'clock again before bed. That's it. I usually just copy it across. Now, on the day, if I make slight changes, whatever, but at least I have a plan. And having a plan means I need to have that food in stock. So whenever I list something during the night before I go to bed for the next day, a bit of pre-planning, it takes like 3 minutes to do, right? 2 minutes. And 2 minutes away from your Netflix habit is not going to kill you, right? To make sure you stay on your plan. But the point is, I don't have to rely on discipline or motivation. I've made my prepped healthy food the easier, simple option. If I was to order Uber Eats now, it's still going to take 45 minutes to deliver. And I don't know if the food quality is going to be very good. The driver might have taken too long. I've still got stuff in the fridge that I can eat today. So I've made it the easier option. The lie of high discipline individuals is that they're just on it all the time. Mostly, they're just spending less time in environments where they have to exercise their willpower, where they have to exercise their discipline. If you live a lifestyle, if you live in an environment where you don't have to constantly test yourself, you're going to be fine. This is why I think this whole trope of you wake up in the morning, you've got two choices, discipline or excuses. If you leave it till the morning, you've already failed, because eventually, when your discipline and your motivation runs out, and it will, you'll resort to the easier option because you don't have anything prepped. So that kind of stuff doesn't help you. Now, let's move on to something else I've been doing a lot of recently. It's daily cardio every morning, about half an hour. Now, I have a whole plan for that as well. And this has turned into a routine of mine, which helps me to do my cardio in the morning. So let me talk you through it, right? Let me talk you through it. My cardio plan starts the night before. Essentially, the night before, I will go have a shower before bed to get myself ready for bed. And I will take up about half a gallon of flavored water and I'll just put it next to my bed. Then I'll go to sleep. So I'm ready to be hydrated in the morning. So that's already ready. It's done the night before. So I'll pop that next to the bed on the floor. Now in the morning, my wife brings me a cup of tea. All right. Now with the cup of tea, I will have a caffeine tablet, which is also on my bedside table. I've just woken up, first 5 minutes. I've got a cup of tea in my hand. I've downed the caffeine tablet. Great. I've got my water next to me. So I'm out the bed. I'm caffeinated. I'm starting to get hydrated. My gym clothes are already laid out. Within the first 10 minutes of the day, I'm ready to go. So I've made it easy for me to get out of the house. I don't have to pick out my clothes, fill my water bottle, go downstairs to get my caffeine tablets. It's all done. Literally, as soon as I've gotten out of bed, it's all done. I'm ready to go. Grab my keys, I'm out the door. And usually, once I'm at the gym, it's not difficult to do half an hour. The hardest part is getting out the house. So my routine is set up so it's easy for me to get out the house. That's how I've conquered this whole lie about discipline versus motivation. I don't allow myself to exercise discipline and willpower every day because I just make it the easy option. Now, I don't have to wake up in the morning, put on David Goggins and Joe Rogan and whoever else. I don't have to do all that stuff because I have a routine in place, which started the night before. Do you guys get what I'm saying? It's not about discipline or motivation. Yeah. Most guys who appear to be highly disciplined have just arranged their environment in the correct way. So what I want to just go on to say is you're not your genetics. Okay. And I want to just talk a bit of a tangent here, but something to help you guys understand that you can conquer whatever issue you're struggling with, whether it's your diet, whether it's your cardio, you can conquer it, right? The reason I have so much faith in you guys is I did it. Like I was not always this hyper disciplined, not even disciplined. Again, I want to say I'm not disciplined. I've arranged my life so that I don't need to be disciplined all the time. But what I'm trying to say is I was never like this when I was younger. I was never like lean all the time, doing my cardio. So it's not in my natural personality to be doing all these things. So I want to just go on to give you guys a bit of hope here and say, look, you're not your genetics. And I want to just share with you a story. So I went to university in the early 2000s. Now, my elder brothers went to university in the 90s, and they went to university in Edinburgh. And for those of you who are the older type, you will probably remember Edinburgh in the late 90s was party capital of the UK. When I'm talking party, I mean like Z's type of party, hard rec drugs. Rest his soul. Now, a lot of them use rec drugs. Now, every single one of them, as far as I know, when they came back home, they got right back on with their lives, never touched the drugs again because they were out of that environment. So at the time, a lot of these guys were using hard rec drugs 2 or 3 times a week for multiple years. So what could be classed by anyone as an addiction, what probably would have been quite addictive because those compounds have addictive properties. But when they went back home to their families, to their regular lives, they got a job, got all respectable and stuff, they left all that behind. So the biological pull towards whatever they were doing was eliminated, eviscerated by a change in environment. And that's with drugs, which are far more addictive than food. Food is addictive in a sense because it's the environment. But that's the key. I want you guys to understand, and it should provide you with some hope. Like, you're not your genetics. If you follow this advice and take this a bit more seriously, think about how you can change your life, change your environment so that you don't have to always rely on discipline or motivation. It's going to make life a lot easier for you. So change your environment. If you change your environment, you change your outcome massively. These seemingly high motivation, high discipline people often simply just spend less times in environments which trigger the habit. Let's just go to the end and talk about a solution. What I want you guys to do is look at what area in your life you're struggling with. Now, whether it's sticking to a diet, whether it's doing your cardio, whether it's even getting to the gym, look at the triggers. Where do things go wrong? Do things go wrong on a weekend or in the evenings? If it's diet, do you just never get your cardio done? What is it that happens in the lead up to that moment where you make the decision not to do the thing that you've promised yourself you're going to do? Look at the triggers and try to identify how you can change that routine and change that buildup. View your habits as less of a sort of internal act and more as an association between you and your environment. Like I was saying, remove the person from the environment and things completely change. As drastic as changing even very strong physiological urges. And if we're talking about the urge not to do cardio or to eat junk, that's a physiological urge, which you can change if you change your environment. So that's how I conquered my issues around food, not doing cardio. Not a massively disciplined person, but I get things done far better than a lot of people who are constantly talking about discipline, motivation, excuses. Yeah, it's a practical tip for you. That's what actually helps. I hope you guys take this video seriously and put it into practice. These are the types of things I discuss in my coaching practice. And if you are interested in coaching, there's a link in the description below. All right. Peace out.